Hi, and welcome back to Meet the Candidates. I'm Tom Hakeem, and I'm sitting now with my good friend Derek Wilczynski. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Tom.
Before we get started, obviously a position of trustee has its, we'll discuss a little bit, but I think it's more important. A lot of people in the township know who you are. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for the new people and the ones that maybe don't know?
Oh, sure, Tom. I'm a lifelong resident of Clinton Township. I grew up in the township. I graduated from Chippewa Valley in 1989. Quite frankly, I never thought I would end up here because I married a woman from Royal Oak. And if you know anything about people from Royal Oak, they don't like to leave the city at all.
No, you need a passport to go there if you're from the east side, right?
Pretty much. But we found a house out here, and we've lived out here ever since. And I have two children. One's at Michigan State right now. She went to CHIP and graduated from there. My son's going into the 11th grade. He plays baseball over at Chippewa, and we love the community. I'm an attorney. I represent some local clients like MedStar Ambulance, Velic Trucking, Hunter Express. These are businesses that are in the community and, quite frankly, do a lot of work. I just finished a 3-week trial that was pretty successful. And that's what I love to do. But I'm also interested in public service. And so, I'm really looking forward to this race because I think there's a lot that I can contribute to the community.
The position is, that's the team. The board is the team that kind of leads our way around here. And we've had success. You've been here a long time, like me. Clinton Township's a great place to live. We have a lot of good things going for us. And then there's some things that probably could use some improvement and or need addressing. In a position as trustee, what do you feel, Derek, that would be pressing for you to address early on, and just what you feel personally?
Well, you mentioned the fact that the board is supposed to be a team. And from the meetings that I've watched over the last couple of years, we're lacking a level of civility, of basically just getting along. See, trustees are supposed to be stewards for the community. They're supposed to actually be leaders and provide services to members of the community, residents that live in Clinton Township. And so on the one hand, while the board is doing a pretty good job at providing those services, it always seems to be a struggle. And so my pledge is that I work with the other side and that I want to get things done. And those things really include things like public safety. So right now I sit on the Civil Service Commission for Police and Fire. And the scary part is that we don't have enough candidates to replace the police and fire who are retiring or leaving our community. And what's worse than that is we don't even have qualified lists with candidates in both police and fire. It's a struggle. And what I wanted to do is have the township board give the chiefs of both police and fire some flexibility in being able to get new candidates. We're getting, quite frankly, poached from neighboring communities and even communities that aren't neighbors to us, and they're farther away, but that puts our residents at risk because if we don't have police and fire able to respond, that creates a big problem.
Right.
We also have a problem, I think, in the community in that we're not necessarily losing businesses, but we're not replenishing businesses. And we really need to create a climate so that businesses can flourish within the community. We need to make sure that Partridge Creek is filled. We need to do something with the businesses over at, they say, 16 and Groesbeck and Garfield and Canal. There's too many empty spaces here, and I think businesses lack the incentive, whether they're mom and pop businesses or whether they're established businesses, to come into the community and quite frankly, help the community out, provide services. So, the township board, we need to continue. That's the third thing in my agenda is to continue to provide services to the community. That's quite frankly what a board is there for.
I appreciate that. The reality of the situation, you'll have, in many ways, a little different perspective, being an attorney, and understanding a lot of the legal pieces that
Sure.
typically take a long explanation for the mortals of the world like me to figure out. But also maybe adding that insight to the board in situations that I know they become complicated. I know they have rough edges. I know there's
Sure.
It's the human nature from all the way down now. We're in a fractured society, and I feel that we need to, whatever it's going to take, we need to get it back to some civility around, and not just here, Clinton Township, because Clinton Township feels the effect of what's going on around the country.
Sure it does.
Small business is the breath of this country. It always has been. We're hurting in that area. You mentioned that and I appreciate you mentioned that it's something that's important to bring businesses here.
Well, not just that, Tom. We need to keep businesses here as well.
Right.
And right now, we're seeing too many storefronts that just aren't getting filled. So at one point, we had businesses. Let's just take the shopping center at Canal and Garfield, where I live. That Kmart. That's been, it's nice that Crunch Fitness moved in there. It's nice that Canteen has moved in there for the golfers, right? I love that place. But we still have so many empty spaces that need to be filled that have been empty for far too long. And we need to have some type of a relationship with local businesses to incentivize them to come in.
Or to stay in.
Stay in, that's right.
I've always felt that it's one thing to cut a ribbon at a new business, and it's not another thing to go to that business and support it.
That's right.
And I think that the board, along with the other people in the community, that's where it's got to start from.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
The one topic that we it's overplayed for my money, but it's what you hear all the time, and because of the situation that we all grew up in, the marijuana situation. We had 2 referendums. Township didn't want to hear it, so it was voted down, and we move on. People still talk about it.
Sure.
People talk about, well, we could fix the roads if we got all that money in here from the marijuana companies like Mount Clemens, but Mount Clemens roads aren't fixed either yet.
Not yet.
What is your take on all that?
Well, you said it best. We've had 2 referendums in the city, and in each case, they've been voted down. So, as a steward of the people, when the people have spoken on that, I think the issue ends there. And I don't want to do anything that overturns the will of the people. If they've decided that they don't want marijuana in this community, then that's the decision that's made. And so I don't want to upset that, because I think that when you have 2 referendums, people are obviously thinking about that issue. It's not like they went to the polls and didn't know what was going on twice.
Right.
You could see maybe once, but 2 times, that doesn't seem to make sense. So.
You mentioned police and fire,
Yes.
and very difficult. I hear that from friends of mine as well, that
Oh, yeah.
years ago you'd get 100 applicants and you'd pick, and now you can't even get enough applicants to fill. What do we have to do about that here?
Well, so as a member of the Civil Service Commission for Police and Fire, the one thing that I know is that our chiefs are sort of hamstrung because they can't work around Act 72, which really limits the process. And quite frankly, our commission has tried to provide workarounds, and we really want to put the chiefs in a position, and the departments in general, to be able to get lists with more qualified candidates without having so many restrictions. So flexibility is a big issue. We need to give both departments the flexibility to be able to address needs when they're acute like they are now, when we don't have enough candidates on the list, when, quite frankly, we're losing a lot of officers and firefighters to retirement. We need to give them the ability to be able to step up and give the commission the ability to fill those positions and to make sure that our candidates and our, quite frankly, our officers and our firefighters are not being poached by other departments.
Obviously, you've been in many situations in your life and your career. Becoming a trustee, I agree with what you said. You're working on a team now.
That's right.
And the members of the community, as I've said to other people, seem to, it's interesting, only see and hear and talk about the bad.
That's right.
Everything good that happens should happen anyway, whether it's a splash pad, a park for special needs people, and
Sure.
all the other good things that have happened in the township don't get a whole lot of attention. But
That's right.
as soon as somebody flicks on and watches them fighting, or goes to a meeting and looks like the president's speech, the Democrats say, Republicans sit down, and the other one sits down. I mean, it's become a thing, not just from our township, but it's kind of watered itself down to us.
Oh, it has.
How do you see yourself as a team player?
Well, I think it's more than just watered down. It's not a trickle effect. It's like a tidal wave that's, it used to be in our country that politicians would disagree with each other, but get along with each other. And so I look at this, and I'd like to go back to, I don't mean like an old school way of not advocating for your position, but advocating your position with respect for the other side, so that everybody knows where you stand, but you might not get an issue that goes your way, and the other side might not get an issue that goes their way, and you just don't agree, but you can still agree that you're putting your best foot forward and you can get along, because what everybody forgets is it's not about me, and it's not about the rest of the trustees on the board or even the supervisor or the treasurer. It's about doing things right for the people in Clinton. There's a reason why these positions are called trustees. It's because your trust is in them, and you have to act in the best interest for the residents of your community. And if you're fighting constantly, and if you're not civil with each other, then you're not doing your job there. So I think the idea is to identify the issues that need to be in front. You need to act on those issues, and then if you win, great, treat your other side with respect, and if you lose with dignity. I'd rather not be on the losing side, obviously, but at the same time, I know I'm not going to get everything that I want, but I can't be petulant about it. That only hurts the residents of the township.
When somebody comes before the board with a concern, and they get up and speak, historically, I've known from what I've in my career, etc., there's two things that scare people to death 99% of the time: speaking in public,
Oh, sure.
in front of a crowd, or getting in front of a microphone or
Sure.
a camera. I've watched the board on several occasions, not several occasions, but on occasion. So somebody gets up with a concern. Let's be honest. If I get up with a concern, it's because of my driveway or in front of my house.
Usually,
It may
that's
be
right.
my neighbors. Maybe four of us all got together and got brave and said, we got to do something about this sewer. But it's typically a very localized concern. And it's easy to sit back as a trustee and say, well, we appreciate your problem. Unfortunately, we got 6,000 other problems that affect 200, 500, 2,000, 100,000 people.
Sure.
So kind of you more or less go away kind of attitude.
That's right.
I'm not saying that to defame our great boards that I've been here forever, but I've seen it. It's a human thing.
Oh, sure.
How do you feel about communicating in every good possible way with the individuals that step up?
Well, communicating starts by listening. Because if we don't listen, then we're really not hearing what the residents have to say. And I don't believe in a plan or a policy where we get up and cut people off. And, we really have to understand why somebody's getting up there. So you made a good point, Tom, where you said, these people obviously have something that affects them. It affects them so much that they're willing to get up there and speak, when public speaking is a really hard thing for people to do.
Absolutely.
So they get up there. That means that they feel very passionately, and I think we owe them, at the very least, the ability to listen. I watched the board meeting when they had the Columbus Day dispute from a couple of years ago, and I was just disheartened by the fact that you had a section of our community who was in support of Columbus Day basically ridiculed by a number of members of the board, as opposed to taking this seriously and saying, look, we may not have thought about this as deeply as we should have. And I just thought that was completely unfair. There's a solution to all of this, and it's to create a situation, it's to create a solution where, the people that were really in support of Columbus Day that there was an understanding as to why they felt that way and support that, while still trying to advance like whatever the board members that were opposed to it wanted to do. But nobody listened. And I think that the way to start with that is to listen, to not ridicule, to take people seriously.
Well, I agree, and unfortunately or fortunately, been around long enough to know that you can have a timer. You can say, listen, you have exactly 7 minutes.
Sure.
State your case, read your whatever, and we have other people here. So at 7 minutes, you say, okay, listen, just like a debate where nobody listens, and you
That's
say,
right.
okay, turn off the microphone. I'm sorry, that you've done a great job. We'll see what we can do to address it.
That's right.
I also think that there's been people on the board for years, yourself probably would be as one, that actually after the meeting go and talk to those people.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you can't solve their problem. I mean, it's just a matter, I think, like I said before, the township can do 5,000 things right and nobody will ever make a comment.
That's
but
right.
as soon as something doesn't go their way, then they're going to raise holy hell. And,
Well,
that's the normal way of life.
That's right. I think that happens, and we have to try to minimize that by making people feel welcome, like they can come to you as a trustee or any of the officers,
Right.
And that they feel like you're responsive. And I think the biggest key to this is even when you can't solve an individual resident's individual problem, you at least can tell them, look, we've taken these steps, and here's what we're looking at in the future to try to make things better. I think we want to put them in a position where they understand. Again, I started out by saying this at the start of the question and answer, where to say, look, we're not always going to win, but we want to make sure that it sounds like we're not just sounds like, but that we actually are dealing with people and trying to address those problems.
Well, I agree, and I think that in order to start healing process at the ground level, which if it ever gets to the top level again, that'd be wonderful in this country. We have some issues we're dealing with, and everybody deals with them in a different way. In the final, looks like 2.5 minutes, I'd like to give you a half hour. That doesn't work. I want you to just go ahead and tell the citizens of Clinton Township why they should put you on the board.
Well, look, I'm committed to this community. I am very positive about Clinton Township, and I'd like to see this township move to the next level. Right now, we're sort of losing ground to Macomb Township and Shelby in terms of population, where they're growing. We need to be able to grow, and we need to address things to keep seniors in our community and to help them grow. We need to address public safety. That's a big issue. We also need to make sure everybody talks about fixing the roads, but it seems like we get farther and farther and farther behind. So we need to be doing that in an efficient manner as well. And quite honestly, we just need to provide services to the residents. We have a great infrastructure in this community. Just driving into this building today, you had the new splash pad. The senior center is packed today. Those ball fields should be packed at all times too. And we need to continue to grow there so that people move into this community. And if we can keep businesses here as well, we can put new housing in as well. And I think it's a great time. It's a transitionary period. I think moving forward, the board is going to look different and the officers will look different. But I think we have a tremendous opportunity. And I would really like to be a part of it, not for me, but to help the people that I live with and the people, quite frankly, I've grown up with.
Yeah. Well, I can appreciate that. So on behalf of myself, people of Clinton Township and our staff here at Clinton Township Television, my good friends, first of all, I'd like to thank you for making the effort to become more of a public servant, go to work for us in today's environment. That is not an easy task. It looks easy, sounds easy. Once you get there, there's a lot of work to be done.
Oh, there is.
And so we appreciate that. Also appreciate you spending a few minutes with us today. Derek Wazinski, for trustee of Clinton Township. Thanks, my friend, for coming.
Oh, Tom, thank you. You're an institution in our community, and I don't know what this would be like without you. Every 4 years.
Sometimes I wonder.
Sure.
So, this is Tom Hakeem for Meet the Candidates.